So I'm Cody Stewart from Vang Comp Systems. Well, Vang Comp Systems was started as a way to make shotguns shoot tighter shot patterns with buckshot. The whole company was designed around the barrel modification system, a way for the shotguns to shoot tighter shot patterns while reducing recoil and reducing the muzzle rise. Back in 1989, the FBI came to hands and they were just asking about how to make shotguns pattern better with buckshot without having to worry about maintaining the choke tubes. He figured out that you can lengthen the forcing cone and backboard the shotgun to reduce that shot deformation, to have better, more consistent, tighter shot patterns with buckshot without having to maintain choke tubes. So once he achieved that, the company was founded. That was the product. That was the goal. They achieved that goal. And so he started making shotguns better for fighting instruments, taking the bird gun that everybody knew, the Remington 870 and the Mossberg 590 platforms. They started as hunting guns and turning them into fighting guns. The 870s, there's over 11 million of them out there. Mossbergs aren't too far behind. So because of that, those are the ones that we're kind of focused on, because we started with that law enforcement and military focus. And that's what's being used because that's what everyone's used to, and they do a great job. A big portion of our customers now are civilians wanting to turn their bird guns into fighting guns. Home defense, the benefits of shooting a 12 gauge without the penalty of recoil or large shot patterns, so you don't know where pellets are going. The Vang Comp system makes sense for pretty much everybody who owns a shotgun. So in the early days, it was probably 90% law enforcement customers and then maybe 10% individuals. But now if it's not 50-50, there's even more private citizens who use our Vang Comp product than law enforcement. Yeah, so probably the majority of the builds that we do is we take an old bird gun with a long barrel and a bead sight, and we turn it into one of our shotguns, where we cut the barrel down to about 18 inches or 14 if you're allowed to. We do the barrel modification system where we lengthen the forcing cone, we backbore it, we add the compensation ports, and then we add a good set of ghost ring sights on there, the Vang Comp sights. We have wing protected front and rear sights with click adjustable windage and elevation on the rear, and a 2-shot magazine tube extension to allow more ammunition on board. Most of those will finish up with the Cerakote finish, make it protected and corrosion resistant, and make it look new again. So people send us their gun and it comes back looking like a brand new one. Over here, we inspect it to make sure that everything's good to go as far as the wall thickness on the bore for the Vang Comp system, lengthened forcing cone, the back bore, and the porting. We also check the shell latches. We get a 57-point inspection for the Remington models, and then the Mossbergs have a few less. There's just less components in there, but we make sure that the shell latches are good. We make sure the ejector's good. The ejector's got good spring tension. The rivets are all set well, and just a good inspection of making sure all the parts that need to work do work. Yeah, so Magpul gave us this a box stock Mossberg 590. It's the non-A1 version. There is some room for improvement on this, and we're gonna go discover all that. As far as controls go, we're gonna do our oversized safety. It's made of metal, which is better than the factory one that's made of plastic. And it's also larger, so it's not as easy to miss or go over. So you hit that button, it's a positive click back and forth. We're also gonna do our stainless steel magazine follower. The factory steel follower is prone to corrosion, and it's got a lot of bearing surface that can impinge with dirt and oils that get trapped in the mag tube. So our stainless steel follower is designed to have grooves for that stuff to collect, and it travels back and forth, and it's stainless steel, so it doesn't tend to corrode as much. There is a hole on the front of this, and this is something that we saw in our years of development out at Gunsight. The hole on the front shows that the magazine tube is empty. So we saw people going with high visibility materials and things that would you could quickly see in a situation where I guess you had time to take your eyes off of what was happening. We decided that we didn't want that to be a barrier. So in a firefight, in the heat of the moment, you can stick your finger up and feel whether you have the flat, which is a shell in your magazine tube, or a hole, and you know you got to stuff it. So this was the first one with the hole, so you could witness it by feel instead of looking, to take your eyes off of what's happening. Shotguns are, a tubular claymore. So all the ammo goes in here in the magazine tube. They're limited by ammunition. So you want to have a way to carry extra ammo on the gun, and that's where our detachable side ammo carrier comes in. Like we said, the shotgun's limitation is always the capacity, so you should have a way to hold ammo on the platform. So this is a detachable side ammo carrier. It's made of a few different components. Some people ask, why don't we just put a Velcro on the side of the gun? Well, we don't want to trap any moisture against the side of the gun and have any corrosion possibly happen. So we want to have a sacrificial barrier here. So this is a sheet of aluminum. The aluminum is cut. The keyhole slot holds on to the screw on the Mossberg, and then the trigger pin is replaced with this screw here. So this is our new low profile screw that holds it on. So this is a steel screw, and it goes into a steel escutcheon on the inside of the plate here, so that your thread engagement is steel on steel, and you don't have the risk like you do with some other ones with steel fasteners going into aluminum plates, and it just mars your threads, or you can over tighten it and pinch the action. This screw has been machined with the tolerance of the receivers in mind, so it has a shoulder on it and it stops turning, so you can't clamp the receiver in. So this is the detachable side ammo carrier, and then these are the loops. It's a proprietary elastic we have made for us, really nice and rigid. So if you like to reload the side saddle that's on the gun as opposed to ripping it off and swapping it out for another one, this is nice and rigid, and it stays there for you. This Remington's just a little bit different. So this one we're going to cut and crown this barrel. We're going to keep this awesome ventilated rib on here. And so because of where these posts are, we're gonna come right about to 19 inches, so we can blend that rib right into our front sight. The safety switch on the Remington's a little different. It is a cross bolt safety instead of a tang safety like on the Mossberg. So for this, we have our dome head safety, and that's a safety switch that we invented back in 1992 for the Alaska State Troopers, so that they could activate that safety switch while wearing thick gloves. And so whether you're shooting gloved or not gloved, this dome safety is really great to replace this little hard to find factory switch. So you find your target, you can go into the trigger and bump that safety switch off with your knuckle. And then, of course, the Magpul stuff. Shotguns are no good if they don't fit you. So once you get the barrel system done, now you got to make sure the thing fits you. So the Magpul stock has that adjustability, plenty of sling mounting points, awesome durability, and same with the forend. A way to mount a weapon light. A home defense shotgun especially, you got to have a way to mount a white light to the gun. So that Magpul MOE forend with the M-LOK slots, it's awesome, right out of the box, ready to go. So the next thing that we have is the backboard process. So after we've measured the bore micrometer, we know which cutters we have to use to do our patented barrel system to it. So lengthen the forcing cone and backbore. That combination to change the geometry inside of your barrel to allow for less shot deformation and tighter shot patterns and reduced recoil. All those things happen right here. The Vang Comp system, the magic happens here. So the shell comes in here, and the chamber of the barrel is the diameter of that shell. And then the bore of the barrel is the diameter of whatever's engraved on the side of the barrel. Cylinder bore, improved cylinder, modified. This is a straight taper, but right about here, about the width of my finger, there is a cone, and that forces that shot together to travel down the bore until it meets the choke at the very end, which is just a smaller diameter. That constriction at the end is what we do it behind that constriction, so that this is effectively more constrictive. So the next process after the back bore and the lengthened forcing cone is our porting process. So this is where the magic happens on that. On a normal 18-inch barrel, we've got 62 holes that we introduce into this equation to spread out that muzzle blast. We spread it over a larger surface area, and we vector it down so it offsets your muzzle flip. So when you press that trigger, you can literally watch your pellets hit the target. So we've put it on an instrument before. We say it's about 80% reduction in muzzle rise, and that may be a conservative estimate. You watch that, you press that trigger, the gun doesn't hop at all. It travels to the rear, which is exactly what we wanted to do for controllable follow-up shots. After the ports, the receiver actually comes over here and gets drilled for our hole pattern for the rear sight with rail. So it happens here on the old Bridgeport. We make the holes here, we do the threads over there. So after the holes are drilled in the receiver, they come over here to be tapped, and we tap each receiver because the sights get installed as a pair on the assembly. So we make sure that they're top dead center and mechanically zeroed on your assembly. So a lot of people ask if they can just send me the barrel for the Vang Comp system with the ports and our front sight. And I say yes, but we need to have your receiver here also so we can make sure that your front sight is top dead center on your assembly. So they get tapped here, and then we install a rear sight and come over here to install the front sight. So after the rear receiver is drilled and tapped for the rear sight, we bring it over here, we install a rear sight, put that receiver in the fixture, install your barrel on there, and that way when we install this front sight, everything's top dead centered and mechanically zeroed on your assembly. So the front sight happens here on this silver brazing fixture. It's an induction brazing machine. We use high temp silver solder because it's just shy of welding, but it doesn't mess with the heat temper, and it's on there permanent. So the front sight gets packed with flux and solder here. It gets installed here. We press this button, and we're red hot in about 30 seconds. So once that's done, a little bit of cleanup, and then we're headed for engraving and finish. So after the sights are installed, the front sight's silver soldered on, all the goo from that is all cleaned up and blasted, looks nice and clean. We're gonna bring it over here and engrave our logo in between the ports on the top. So this is a new machine for us, but every gun that comes in for our full custom work leaves with that engraving on the barrel. And after this step, we also Cerakote. So Cerakote happens here in-house. It allows us a pretty good turnaround time. We stock 4 colors. We got black, Magpul FDE, Magpul OD green, and Sniper gray. So those are the 4 colors that we always stock, or we can do a special color for a little upgrade charge, and we get the paint here quickly. And turnaround time, we're trying to get it right around 2 weeks. So after the gun's finished, it comes out of the oven, cools down a little bit, we bring it over here to polish it up, clean up some of the mating surfaces, make sure all the metal on metal bearing surfaces look all good. It gets a little bit of a clean, a lube, an inspection. It gets reassembled with all the components that the build has spec'd out for it, and then we function test them. So every gun that leaves here has had at least 2 tubes worth of dummy rounds fed through it to make sure it function tests okay before it goes home. So yeah, we're checking for buildup on tolerance stacking with a Cerakote finish and some of the manufacturer variances and foreign tube assemblies and magazine tube assemblies and those types of things. But after that, it gets boxed up and shipped home to you guys.